Anxiety. It's something that many of us deal with, and yeah, it can massively affect your sex life. Let's talk about it. To be real, we have a lot to be stressed about, like globally. There's international stuff going on, like national, personal stuff going on, familial, societal, cultural stuff going on that is stressful for a lot of folks. And trying to manage all of that and still go about our day-to-day life, you know, get the groceries, make love to our partners, it's a lot to deal with. And that's why in this video, I'm breaking down the 3 ways that anxiety shows up in your sex life. And trust me when I tell you, regardless of your gender, your sexual orientation, your experience level, or how you relate to anxiety overall, anxiety is one of the top reasons that people aren't having the amazing sex that they deserve. So whether it's you or your partner, listen up, because this is going to be an important subject. Before I dive in, I want to clarify an important point, and that is there's a distinction between stress and anxiety. Stress is something we all live with. It is caused by stressors. That can be anything from a hard day at work, paying your bills on time, relational issues, getting a shitty haircut. That can all be stress. Anxiety, on the other hand, is how our bodies and minds process stress in an ongoing way. It's defined by the persistent, excessive worries that don't go away, regardless of whether there's an immediate present stressor. And anxiety, that's the big one. That's the one that we're gonna deal with today. And that's the one that might, even as I speak, be sinking its claws into you and stopping you from having a great sex life, or even from having sex at all. And I am not a therapist, and this is not therapy, but I have dealt personally with enough anxiety in this lifetime to speak with some authority on the subject, at least from my personal perspective. And as a sex coach who's been working with men who deal with performance anxiety, especially over the last 7 years, I'm here to tell you that you are not alone, and these are pretty freaking common issues. So, number 1, performance anxiety. This might be familiar to some of you, and if not, congratulations. I hope that you don't learn that it is by the end of this video. Performance anxiety is different than general anxiety. Performance anxiety is when the anxiety you're feeling is directly caused by the worry that you won't perform in bed. And this is true for both men and women. I did a video a long time ago on this channel about how performance anxiety shows up very differently in women's bodies than in men's bodies. For men and people with cocks, performance anxiety typically refers to everything from worrying about getting or maintaining an erection, to worrying about how your body will be received by your partner, worrying about whether or not you have the skills to please your partner. It can also be caused by the worry that you won't be able to reach climax. But here's the really messed up thing about performance anxiety. It often has the power to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So in other words, you worry about how you're not going to perform or get an erection or get off or please her. And the more that you worry, the more likely those things are to come true. Because the more that you worry, the more that you get stuck in your head, the less you can actually just be present with your partner, which is the number 1 factor in your ability to actually please her. And it is my hypothesis, my working theory, that performance anxiety is actually the leading cause of erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation in otherwise healthy men. If you ask me for my number 1 sex tip, how do you become a great lover? What I would say is be present and express yourself authentically. It's actually not more complicated than that. If you're present to what someone's body wants, needs, desires, you'll actually be pretty much able to meet those requests. And if you're so not present because you're thinking about your anxiety or running through the deep stories in your mind that are telling you that you're not enough, well, you won't be able to be present, therefore you won't be able to please. It's that simple. One of the keys to dealing with performance anxiety is to just have clear communication with your partners. You'll find that a lot of your performance fears and concerns can actually be sort of softened, disappeared even, just by communicating. And then alternatively, working to develop your self-confidence so that you don't feel so much anxiety about your performance, so that you know that no matter how you perform, you are enough. You are good enough. You are deserving. And I promise that you are not alone. No matter what performance anxiety related thing is plaguing you, I promise there are thousands of other men who are going through the exact same thing. And if you want a community to work those things out with, along with coaches who can help get you there faster, check out my High Performance Male men's group. The link is in the description. Number 2, anxiety preventing sexual desire. You don't even have to be anxious about sex itself in order for anxiety to affect your sex life. You see, our libidos, our desire for sex, are sensitive, complicated, interconnected. They are a part of a huge network and system of factors inside of our physical and emotional bodies. And when we experience anxiety, regardless of what the topic is, or even if there is a specific thing, our bodies release a hormone called cortisol. At high levels, cortisol wreaks havoc on our bodies. You may be familiar with this, I've talked about it before, but in short, it suppresses our sex hormones. It makes it difficult for us to get turned on in the first place. It literally makes it difficult for our body to route blood into our genitals because it's so busy routing it to our hands for fight, our feet for flight, or to fawn, or to freeze. Anyways, it makes it harder to reach orgasm, to be engorged, aroused, to get hard. And on top of the physiological effects of anxiety, there's also mental and emotional aspects as well. I mean, good sex and arousal, like I said, requires presence, openness, vulnerability, and if your mind is racing, your body is riddled with cortisol, what are the chances that you're going to actually be able to slow down and experience openness and vulnerability? And distracted sex is bad sex. This is why I always tell men, don't think about like rotting meat in order not to come. Just learn how to last longer in bed. It's not impossible. But the more that you think about rotten meat, the more that your mind is, I don't know, in the dumpster behind a grocery store and not with your partner. And the same is true for anxiety, only it's not a choice. It's a distraction that may just come popping its angry little head in like a pimple on your wedding day, just right there, right there. Anxiety around sex can come from past experiences and traumatic events. So say your partner gave birth vaginally or had a C-section and has some scarring left over and has some pain around sex or had some pain around sex. It can be anxiety inducing just to think about experiencing pain. It's that same feeling that you get when you're driving to the dentist's office and you're like, I know I want to do this, but I also know it's gonna hurt and I don't like it. For both men and women, having had a previous painful sexual experience can lead to anxiety around sex itself, and even more so for trauma survivors or people who have survived sexual assault, molestation, and things along those lines. Number 3, using sex for coping with anxiety. Finally, while some people find that they're unable to get aroused when their anxiety levels are high, other folks are prone to using sex as a coping mechanism when they're stressed out. Now, I want to be clear, I am not opposed to this, especially not once in a while. Sex is an awesome break from your troubles, an escape from your worries. It feels good, it exerts your body, it releases all sorts of feel-good chemicals. To put it bluntly, if you are anxious or stressed after a long day, sometimes getting railed or doing some railing is just the ticket. Or maybe it's like more like gentle lovemaking to railing, whatever is gonna float your boat and make you feel like everything's gonna be okay. But if sex becomes a coping mechanism, like a regular form of escapism, you can take that as a good sign that you're actually not dealing with your problems. And men, I am especially looking at you here, although there are plenty of women who are guilty of this as well. If you find that without your nightly nut, you just aren't capable of facing the world, if you need sex from your partner every single day in order to feel like you are loved and valid, this is not a healthy relationship with sex. Sex, like anything else, can become a habit. It can become a dependency. And the more dependent that you are on sex for your emotional and physical well-being, well, the harder it's going to be for you to have a healthy relationship with sex because you need it now. It's a need to have, not a want to have. And I'm not talking about the normal ebb and flow of sex inside of a romantic partnership. That is a need. I'm talking about the anxious feeling of, I must have sex. And if that's you, I highly recommend that you work with a professional, a coach, a therapist to develop other healthy coping mechanisms. It is imperative that you be able to deal with your stressors in an adult way. And whether you're finding your coping inside of your partner's body or at the bottom of a bottle, it's not a mature way of dealing with adult problems. Find adult strategies and work with a professional because, hey, no one gets there alone. In short, we can't have a healthy relationship with others unless we have a healthy relationship with ourselves. And if we are using sex to cope, it's gonna impact our relationship with our partner, but it also impacts the relationship that you have with you. This is just as true in solo sex as it is in partnered sex. Good sex is about connection. If you're having sex to quiet your anxiety, you're not really having sex to connect with the other person or with yourself. And this is a one-way ticket to resentment, to having a not great ability to perform. And then maybe you'll have the performance anxiety that we talked about earlier. It's a no-win situation. All right, there you have it. Like I said, anxiety, as well as how it manifests in our sex lives, is pretty complicated, but super common stuff. And if you are struggling with it, whether that's performance anxiety, past traumas, coping mechanisms, no, you are not alone. And there is so much help out there. Now, if you are suffering from subclinical anxiety, and that means that your anxiety exists, but it doesn't require treatment from a licensed therapist or psychiatrist to be managed, I would love to help. Whether it's in my one-on-one coaching with a member of my team or my membership, High Performance Male, The Advantage, investing in yourself, breaking down the things that are holding you back is always a worthwhile thing that you deserve to have access to. So if you want my help, whether that's dealing with performance anxiety or just having the best sex of your life, check out the links in the video description. And if you're not ready for that, just make sure that you're subscribed, because I put out a video like this every single week designed to have you have the best sex of your life. I'm Caitlin B, and I'll see you next week.